The first wedding of Mary, Queen of Scots. The union of Mary, Queen of Scots, and Francis, Dauphin of France, was a significant event in European history, culminating in their marriage at Notre-Dame de Paris on the 24th of April 1558. The occasion was marked by elaborate festivities, including theatrical pageants. Mary Stuart ascended the Scottish throne as an infant after the death of her father, King James V, in December of 1542. Her early reign was marred by the controversial proposal to wed her to Edward, the Prince of Wales, which ignited the rough wooing, a series of conflicts between Scotland and England. To secure her safety and strengthen political alliances, Mary was sent to France under an agreement ratified in 1548, and she arrived at the French court to be raised alongside the royal children, Elizabeth and Claude of Valois. Her engagement to Francis, the heir to the French throne, was part of a strategic alliance between France and Scotland. Mary's mother, Mary of Guise, ruled Scotland as regent and saw the marriage as a way to solidify her influence and align Scotland more closely with France. She believed that marrying her daughter to the Dauphin would bolster her pro-French stance, especially in the face of opposition from Scottish nobles who feared the erosion of traditional laws and increased French control. The marriage was seen as a way to stabilise Scotland through a powerful Franco-Scottish alliance, despite concerns about Mary's health and the political ramifications of such a union. Henry II of France, acting as Scotland's protector, also played a pivotal role in the marriage negotiations. Although some members of the French court, including Anne de Montmorency, opposed the match due to the increased power that it would grant Mary's uncles, the Duke and Cardinal of Guise, Henry II supported the union as a strategic move to strengthen his hold over Scotland. The wedding, celebrated with grandeur, symbolised a consolidation of power and the intertwining of French and Scottish interests. For Mary of Guise, it was a triumph that fortified her position and ensured her daughter's status as a key player in European politics. The marriage not only reinforced the alliance between the two nations, but also set the stage for future conflicts and alliances that would shape the political landscapes of the time. In 1558, Scottish commissioners faced disputes regarding the terms of France's role after his marriage to Mary, Queen of Scots. They opposed suggestions that he should be crowned in France with the Scottish regalia, although he was expected to assume the title of King of Scotland with the crown matrimonial. Earlier that year, on the 4th of April, Mary had already signed crucial documents at the palace, and these agreements outlined the transfer of her rights to the Scottish throne to France in the event of her death, and obligated Scotland to reimburse the French crown for the financial support during the rough wooing. It is believed that these terms, which heavily favoured France, were unknown to the Scottish commissioners. The formal betrothal of Mary and Francis took place at the Louvre on the 19th of April, 1558. Both signed a marriage contract, with Mary affirming her consent, with advice from the three estates of Scotland and her grandmother. Following the formalities, there was a celebratory dance, and during this, Antoine confided in the Venetian ambassador, Giovanni, about the internal court controversies surrounding the marriage. Notably, Anne de Montmorency had advocated for delaying the wedding. This event, sometimes referred to as Mary's hand fasting, was mentioned in early translations of John Leslie's History of Scotland. Giovanni described it as the day of giving of hand. The Scottish negotiators involved in the marriage contracts, including James Stuart, Commendator of St Andrews, and the Earl of Cassily, had to secure personal loans from an Italian financier. This was to cover their travel expenses. Tragically, several diplomats, including Cassilis and Robert Reid, Bishop of Orkney, died in Paris on their way back to Scotland, possibly due to the plague. However, some chroniclers and opponents of Mary suggested that they were poisoned as part of a plot. The wedding ceremony was held at Notre-Dame de Paris, with a specially constructed platform linking the bishop's palace to the church. This grand stage, described as a theatre or scaffold with a gallery, hosted the procession. The elaborate nature of the event echoed the wedding of Mary's father, James V, to Madeleine of Valois in 1537. Several detailed contemporary accounts of the wedding survive, highlighting the pomp and ceremony of the occasion. The grandiosity of the event underscored the political and cultural significance of the union, reinforcing the alliance between Scotland and France. On her wedding day, Mary, Queen of Scots, dazzled in a resplendent gown of silver fabric, which featured a modest train, and draped over her shoulders was a magnificent purple mantle, intricately embroidered with gold and boasting an extended train. The centerpiece of her regal ensemble was a striking crown adorned with a notable ruby, famously called the Egg of Naples, prominently positioned at her forehead. Contemporary French accounts refer to this gemstone as a carbuncle, estimating its value to be over 500,000 écus. Another version of her attire describes her donning a gown of luxurious Persian velvet, intricately sewn with jewels and white embroidery. Mary's necklace, a wedding gift from King Henry II and Queen Catherine de Medici, featured a stunning ruby and diamond pendant, later celebrated as the Great H of Scotland. Records reveal that Catherine de Medici procured a diamond for the necklace from merchants in Lyon, while additional pearls and a ruby were purchased to complete the exquisite piece, likely assembled by Mary's goldsmith. The nuptial service was officiated by Charles II, Cardinal de Bourbon, while the Bishop of Paris delivered a sermon and conducted a mass. After the religious ceremony, the royal party retired to the bishop's palace for a celebratory feast and dancing. Meanwhile, Parisian officials and dignitaries gathered at a nearby house, which proved too small for the large attendance. A grand supper was held in the great hall of the palace, where guests dined at a marble table. The evening's entertainment featured an array of music. Following the meal, guests enjoyed performances and mass, with Charles, Cardinal of Lorraine, overseeing the elaborate preparations and heraldic displays that adorned Notre Dame and the Grand Salle. One of the evening's highlights was a display involving 12 mechanical horses adorned in gold and silver cloth, which were paraded into the hall. The final act featured 6 ships crafted to appear as if sailing on artificial waves, their sails animated to mimic gusty winds. These ships, draped in the red and gold colours of the House of Stuart, carried masked members of the court, disguised as Turkish sailors. The ships sailed across the hall, picking up dance partners, including Mary herself, before departing with their passengers, symbolizing the bride and groom's departure for the night. This grand pageant was a masterwork of an Italian artist who was renowned for his innovative designs. Following the formal announcement of Mary, Queen of Scots' marriage to Francis, Dauphin of France, on the 26th of June 1558, her mother, Mary of Guise, Regent of Scotland, commanded the lighting of celebratory bonfires across the nation. Edinburgh marked this historic union with a grand event on the High Street on 5th of July 1558, symbolising the renewal of the old alliance between Scotland and France. The festivities featured a pageant orchestrated by local playwrights, using fabrics from the royal wardrobe for costumes crafted by Patrick Doraine. A striking spectacle, the pageant included a decorated cart and artificial fruit trees, representing the 7 planets in Cupid, designed by painter Walter Binning. This theme mirrored similar court festivities in Paris. Catherine Michelson, Lady Carnock, was notably attired in a special gown, likely for her role in the pageant. Edinburgh Castle's famed cannon was restored to fire a celebratory shot, its impact felt as far as Wardy. Permanent tributes to the wedding may have been reflected in the heraldic carvings at Holyrood Palace. In November 1558, the Scottish Parliament heard the Marriage Commissioner's report and granted Francis the Scottish crown matrimonial. This decision granted new trade privileges to French citizens in Scotland, mirroring reciprocal benefits in France. However, the growing influence of France in the Catholic Church under Mary of Guise sparked resistance. Protestant reformers, known as the Lord of Congregation, began challenging her regency, fearing the loss of Scottish autonomy. John Knox criticised Mary of Guise's efforts to secure the union, arguing that Scotland had surrendered its sovereignty to France. The tensions would later culminate in the conflict between the Protestant lords and the regents. The death of Mary I of England in November 1558 brought Mary, Queen of Scots, into the line of succession for the English throne, a claim that agitated Elizabeth I. Reports of heraldic displays at the French court combining the arms of Mary and Francis with those of England added to the tension. Although the English College of Arms dismissed these claims, Elizabeth was displeased, leading to diplomatic friction. Elizabeth sent Peter Mutas to offer condolences on the death of Henry II of France, but tensions remained, highlighted by incidents such as the display of provocative heraldry on silver plates. This diplomatic strain was exacerbated by discussions on Scotland's status, leading Elizabeth to support Protestant forces against Mary of Guise through the Treaty of Berwick and the subsequent siege of Leith. After their wedding, Mary and Francis moved to a chateau. Following the death of Henry II in July 1559, Francis II was crowned at Rheims, with Mary present but without a ceremonial role. Despite rumours of pregnancy in 1559, the couple focused on their royal duties, including ceremonial entries and managing the tensions of the Amboise conspiracy in 1560. In April 1560, amid the Reformation crisis, Mary and Francis authorised diplomats to negotiate with England and Scotland. The death of Mary of Guise in June 1560 led to the Treaty of Edinburgh, settling the conflict in Scotland. Mary and Francis had limited involvement in the treaty's details, as their reign was cut short by Francis's death in December 1560. This ended their brief but impactful union.